Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by saying something that may shift your entire financial future. You don't need to find wealth. You need to become the kind of person who creates it. See, most people are chasing riches as if it's something out there. A car, a house, a six-figure launch, $1 million investment. But wealth was never meant to be pursued externally. You cannot earn what your identity will not allow. This truth is foundational yet so often overlooked. Most people are out here trying to change their income, but they're not willing to change their identity. They want the fruit without planting the right seed. But let me tell you, you do not get rich by doing rich things. You get rich by becoming a rich person on the inside. The money always follows the mindset. The wealth always follows the worth. And your self-worth always dictates your net worth. When you think of the wealthiest people on the planet, their riches didn't start with the dollars in their hands. It started with the clarity in their hearts about who they were. Identity is not something you stumble into. Identity is something you build, something you protect, and something you live by. It determines how you talk, how you walk, how you charge, how you sell, how you show up, how you recover, and how you serve. If someone gave you $1 million, but you still carried a $10 mindset, you'd spend it like a $10 thinker. You'd mismanage it. You'd doubt it. You'd hoard it or fear it or lose it because your internal capacity isn't big enough to hold what you're trying to receive. So what happens? The money disappears, not because you didn't want it, but because your identity wasn't yet able to sustain it. And this is why identity always precedes increase. The world teaches people to chase money. The truth is, money chases identity. When you upgrade your identity, when you become someone who believes they are called, capable, worthy, and valuable, the world starts responding to that belief. You attract new conversations, new clients, new rooms, and new results. But none of that happens until you step into the person you were designed to be, not the person life shaped you into, not the version society expects, not the watered down, fearful edition that plays small to avoid rejection, but the real you, the wealthy you, the decisive you, the powerful you. Every financial ceiling you've hit is rooted in an identity limitation. You don't have a money problem, you have an identity ceiling. And the good news is that ceiling can be shattered. It doesn't require permission from anyone. It doesn't require a lottery ticket or a rich uncle or a perfect economy. It just requires one bold decision. I will no longer live beneath who I really am. You begin by speaking differently. You tell yourself a new story. You stop rehearsing your failures and you start rehearsing your future. You invest in becoming, not just in getting. Because getting rich is not just about accumulation, it's about transformation. When you shift your identity from someone who needs money into someone who commands money through value, service, excellence, and vision, everything begins to change. You start to show up with posture. You start to negotiate with confidence. You start to think long term. You stop shrinking in rooms. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You stop waiting for someone to choose you, and you choose yourself. This shift is not cosmetic, it's foundational. And until you make it, no strategy, no funnel, no product, no business model, no mentor, and no investment can give you what your identity will block. You cannot build a mansion of wealth on a foundation of poverty thinking. And you cannot harvest abundance when your internal thermostat is still set to lack. Your identity must become the container big enough to hold the blessings you say you want. Because everything you attract, you will manage at the level of your identity. So if you want to earn more, do more, give more, and grow more, the first place to start is not your wallet, it's your self-concept. Your mind is the manufacturing plant of wealth. Everything you see in your life right now, your income, your business, your relationships, your opportunities, originated in your thought. Before it became reality, it existed in the realm of possibility. And possibility lives in the mind. People often try to change their circumstances without first changing the way they think. That's like trying to change the fruit without addressing the root. The mind is not just a place for memory, it's a place for creation. It is the original 3D printer. Everything external is a printout of what was first internal. This is why two people can be born into the same neighborhood, go to the same school, hear the same lectures, and be given the same opportunities, yet one goes on to build a fortune while the other stays stuck. It's not just about resources. It's about resourcefulness. And resourcefulness is a function of the mind. Your thoughts are the blueprint for your life. Your internal dialogue sets the ceiling for what's possible for you. So if your internal conversation is filled with limitation, fear, doubt, or scarcity, you will never take the kind of bold action that produces real wealth. You'll hesitate. You'll procrastinate. You'll play small, even when the opportunity is big. Because your mind won't let you expand into what your beliefs haven't yet approved. Most people are living in mental prisons that were constructed by the voices of others. Someone told them money was evil. Someone told them they weren't smart enough. Someone told them people like them don't succeed. And those lies, repeated often enough, became their truth. But they are not truth. They are noise. And as long as you don't clear out that noise, it will sabotage every attempt you make to grow. You cannot produce prosperity with a poverty programming running in the background. It will override every breakthrough. The mind is where you either build or bury your future. That's why your greatest investment isn't a stock or a product or a marketing strategy. It's in upgrading your thinking. You have to begin seeing yourself not as a victim of your past, but as the architect of your future. You have to program your mind to think in terms of value, abundance, scale, service, and results. That requires intentional effort. You don't drift into wealth. You don't stumble into prosperity. You have to be mentally prepared to steward increase before it ever shows up. Think about this. If your mind is not trained to receive more, you'll subconsciously sabotage anything that looks like more. That's why people win the lottery and go broke. That's why people win the lottery and go broke. That's why people win the lottery and go broke. The internal container wasn't big enough to hold the external blessing. The root problem wasn't cash flow, it was thought flow. It was mindset capacity. It was mental infrastructure that couldn't sustain expansion. So the expansion became a burden instead of a blessing. And it's not because they didn't want success. It's because their mind wasn't ready to manage it. You must begin to treat your thoughts like currency. Every thought is an investment. Every thought has the potential to compound into action, into habit, into outcome. You cannot afford to entertain thoughts that conflict with your vision. You cannot give mental real estate to limitations and then expect limitless results. You must become ruthless about protecting your mindset. That means watching what you feed your mind, what you read, what you listen to, who you surround yourself with. All of it matters. Every input is programming you for either prosperity or poverty. And let me tell you this, your mind doesn't care whether what you believe is true. It just executes what you feed it. That's why you have to tell it what's possible, what's valuable, what's non-negotiable. You must train your thoughts to align with abundance, to expect increase, to see opportunity instead of obstacles. Because until your mind changes, your money won't. The world will always mirror your mentality. And when your thoughts shift, your reality follows. Wealth is not a number. It's a mindset. And your mind, once renewed, will manufacture a future that matches the new blueprint. You'll never consistently behave in a way that's inconsistent with how you see yourself. This is one of the most overlooked truths when it comes to transformation, especially financial transformation. People set goals, create plans, buy programs, and even take courses, but they don't address the real engine behind their behavior, identity-driven belief. At the core of every consistent action is a belief about what's possible and what's permissible for you. So if you see yourself as someone who always struggles, someone who can't sell, someone who's bad with money, someone who's unlucky, then even if you try to act rich, your subconscious will sabotage your progress to keep you aligned with your internal identity. The mind always seeks congruence. That's why change never sticks when it's only external. Most people think their problem is discipline or strategy or motivation, but those are surface level expressions of a deeper root. The real issue is self-impunity. Behavior is simply the echo of belief. And until you upgrade the belief system that governs how you see yourself, your behaviors will snap back to old patterns, even when you try to change them. That's why people can set a goal to make 6 figures or to get out of debt, and they might even have a few good weeks or months, but then as soon as pressure hits, they revert. Not because they're weak, but because their inner world is not yet aligned with their new outcome. What you believe about yourself creates boundaries for your life. If you believe you're just average, you'll sabotage excellence. If you believe success is for other people, you'll avoid taking the steps that lead to it. If you believe money is bad, you'll unconsciously repel it. And if you believe you're not worthy of wealth, then anytime you start making progress, you'll find ways to burn it down, delay it, or disqualify yourself from receiving it. This is not about motivation, this is about mental patterns. Until you disrupt the pattern, the performance will stay the same. Think about someone trying to go to the next level financially. Maybe they start charging more for their services. Maybe they start offering high-ticket packages. But deep down, they still see themselves as someone who has to prove their value or beg for attention. That self-concept will leak into their tone, their body language, and even their pricing. They'll discount their offers. They'll second-guess their worth. They'll attract clients who undervalue them, all because their internal beliefs are shaping their external world. Your belief is a magnet. It draws experiences that validate what you already think is true. Now understand this, belief doesn't change automatically. It changes through repetition, through exposure, through bold action that challenges old stories. You have to recondition your identity the same way it was formed, through consistent input over time. You have to rehearse your future self. You have to practice the thoughts, the language, the posture of the person you're becoming. You have to take actions that are slightly beyond your current comfort zone, not just to succeed at them, but to teach your brain that a new reality is safe. Because your brain's number one job is to keep you safe, not to make you rich. So if your old identity feels safer than your new destiny, you'll unconsciously cling to the familiar. You cannot outperform the image you have of yourself. You can only rise to the level you believe you belong at. And if you want to permanently change your behavior, whether that's in business, in money, in relationships, or in purpose, you must first confront the outdated beliefs that are driving your current results. It's not enough to want more. You must believe you're the kind of person who gets more, who keeps more, who multiplies more. That belief has to become your default operating system, because when belief changes, behavior becomes automatic. You don't have to force yourself to act like a millionaire when you believe you are one. You don't have to hype yourself into selling when you believe you bring unmatched value. The action flows naturally from the identity. You don't chase success, you start to behave in alignment with it, and then it finds you. Internal value creates external wealth. The world pays you in direct proportion to the value you bring, and the value you bring is a direct reflection of who you've become internally. The mistake many people make is trying to increase their income without increasing their internal capacity. They want more clients, more sales, more opportunities, but they're not developing more insight, more discipline, more clarity, or more emotional intelligence. The market doesn't respond to how badly you want to succeed. It responds to how valuable you've made yourself to the problems people are willing to pay to solve. You don't get paid for your time. You get paid for the value you deliver during that time, and that value is determined by how much you've invested in your personal growth. Every skill you master increases your value. Every mindset shift that removes fear, scarcity, or self-doubt increases your value. Every decision you make to grow instead of stagnate increases your value. They've turned wisdom into offers, experience into frameworks, and problems into products. They've taken what they know and who they are, and they've packaged that into something that solves a pain for others. The ability to do that begins with increasing your internal value first. That's the part no one can see, but it's the part that determines everything people will eventually see. Wealth is not a reward for hustle. It's a reflection of value exchange. You will always be paid in alignment with how deeply your presence transforms a space, how powerfully your words shift someone's thinking, how clearly your product solves a problem, and how effectively your service meets a need. That transformation starts with you doing the hard, invisible work of becoming a more valuable person. Not just by learning more information, but by becoming someone who has embodied wisdom through action, through failure, through consistency, through character. People can feel when you're valuable. It's in your confidence, your energy, your clarity. It shows up in how you communicate, how you price, how you set boundaries. Someone who knows they are valuable will never beg for business. They will never compete in a race to the bottom. They don't pitch out of desperation. They invite with certainty. And that certainty is magnetic. It's not about ego. It's about being so deeply rooted in who you are and what you carry that others are naturally drawn to what you offer. And when they encounter it, it feels expensive because the value is undeniable. You can't fake internal value. You can fake branding. You can fake social media success, but you can't fake wisdom. You can't fake presence. You can't fake depth. And the truth is, the marketplace can feel when it's real. You become rich not when you convince the world to pay you, but when you become the kind of person whose value makes the decision easy. And the only way to get there is to increase the quality of your thinking, the consistency of your action, the clarity of your purpose, and the authenticity of your message. Most people want a breakthrough, but what they really need is a buildup. Internal value is built through intentional, consistent development. Read what others aren't reading, practice what others aren't willing to practice, show up when others quit, ask better questions, surround yourself with people who stretch your thinking, not just validate your excuses. Build yourself into someone who carries wisdom, not just information. Wisdom produces results. It shortens learning curves. It increases demand. And when your value increases, you'll find that wealth is not something you have to chase. It starts to respond to who you've become. The more valuable you are to others, the less you have to market yourself aggressively. People start coming to you, they refer you, they follow you, they trust you. And that trust converts into transactions because people don't buy just based on need, they buy based on belief. They believe in the solution you offer because they can feel the internal value you've cultivated. The world pays attention when you stop trying to look valuable and start becoming, and when you commit to that kind of internal growth, external wealth becomes inevitable. Money moves toward clarity and confidence. Every financial breakthrough you're looking for is hiding behind a decision you've been avoiding. People don't fail because of a lack of opportunity. They fail because of a lack of clarity and decisiveness. Wealth does not wait for the hesitant. It flows to those who move with conviction. When you are unclear about who you serve, what problem you solve, and why it matters, the market mirrors that confusion back to you. You attract clients who hesitate, deals that stall, and results that underwhelm. But when you move with clarity, when your message, your offer, your brand, your presence all speak one language, the market begins to respond accordingly. You cannot sell what you are not certain about. You cannot lead where you're not confident. And you cannot charge what you're afraid to believe you're worth. Confidence is currency. Clarity is leverage. Every time you shrink back in uncertainty, you are leaving money on the table. Every time you second guess your value, you make it easier for the world to do the same. And every time you delay the launch, the post, the pitch, or the conversation, you are signaling to your future that it has to wait. But money responds to certainty. responds to the person who moves even when the outcome isn't guaranteed, because that level of clarity communicates leadership. People want to follow someone who knows where they're going. They want to invest in people who sound like they've already arrived. That doesn't mean lying or pretending. It means becoming internally anchored in what you offer and why it matters so deeply. When you are anchored in your purpose, your message becomes sharp, your offer becomes specific, your posture becomes powerful, and that level of clarity cuts through the noise. It speaks to people who are already looking for a solution, and it makes their decision simple. Confused buyers don't buy. But when you bring clarity, you remove the friction. Most people are waiting to feel confident before they move, but confidence doesn't come first. Clarity and action do. Confidence is a byproduct of forward movement, not a prerequisite. When you act in clarity, even if the steps are small, you teach your nervous system that forward is safe. You create momentum. You give yourself evidence that progress is possible, and with each move, your confidence compounds. It doesn't come from thinking about it. It comes from doing, from deciding, from standing up and declaring what you believe, who you serve, and why you're the best at what you do. Your income is directly tied to the number of decisions you're willing to make and the speed at which you make them. Wealth builders are not stuck in indecision. They train themselves to evaluate, decide, and move. They don't need endless validation. They don't need perfect conditions. They understand that clarity grows in motion, not in stillness. Every time you hesitate, you allow someone else to take the opportunity that was meant for you. But when you move quickly and decisively, you collapse timelines. You accelerate results. You build trust with yourself, and that trust becomes magnetic to others. There is a kind of power that flows through a person who is deeply clear. You can hear it in their voice. You can see it in their eyes. It's not arrogance. It's alignment. They're not trying to convince you. They're not trying to prove anything. They simply know. And that knowing creates a gravitational pull, because people aren't just buying your product, they're buying your certainty. They're borrowing your belief until they can believe for themselves. And when you show up with that kind of clarity, you make the buying decision easy, you make leadership natural, you make wealth inevitable. If you want to increase your income, increase your clarity. Get clear about what you stand for. Get clear about who you help and how. Get clear about the transformation you offer, the promise you make, and the results you deliver. Then package that clarity into your message, your offer, and your strategy. Speak it, write it, own it, and move with it every single day. Because when you become clear, you become powerful. And power attracts opportunity. Confidence converts interest into income, but it all begins with clarity. Clarity of mission, of message, of identity, and of direction. Money responds to stewardship. It doesn't stay where it's not managed with wisdom, and it won't grow where it's not handled with structure. You can manifest all the wealth you want, speak abundance every day, and visualize financial freedom until your vision board is full. But if you don't know how to manage money, multiply money, and move money with strategy, you will always live below your potential. Stewardship is the system that supports sustainability. Wealth without stewardship is a temporary experience. You don't get rich by what you earn. You get rich by what you keep, what you grow, and what you can strategically reinvest to generate more. Most people don't have a money problem, they have a management problem. They think the issue is income, but the issue is structure. When money shows up, they don't know what to do with it. They don't have systems, they don't have boundaries, they don't have discipline, so the money flows in and flows right back out. This is why so many people experience temporary increase but not sustained abundance. They get a big check, a contract, a raise, or a profitable month in business, but it's gone within weeks. That's not a revenue issue. That's a stewardship issue. Because increase that shows up without the container to hold it becomes a curse instead of a blessing. Stewardship means being intentional. It means telling every dollar where to go before it arrives. It means having vision-driven budgets, not survival-driven reactions. It means setting up structures that serve your goals. Whether that's investing, saving, scaling your business, or funding generational wealth, wealthy people don't just make money, they direct it. They give every dollar an assignment. That's why they can grow it. That's why they don't panic in downturn. That's why their wealth compounds. Because their stewardship creates stability, and stability creates longevity. You can't just pray for increase. You have to prepare for it. You have to show that you're trustworthy with the level you're on if you ever want access to the next one. Stewardship also means understanding cash flow, not just profit. Many people think they're doing well financially because they're making good money, but they're not keeping any of it. They don't track where it's going. They don't evaluate their expenses. They don't separate emotion from financial decision making. And over time, they end up feeling stuck, even while earning more than they ever have. Earning is not the final measure of wealth. Retention and reinvestment are. Until you learn to manage your current level with precision and purpose, more money won't solve your problems. It will only amplify your dysfunction. They understand that money is not just for spending. It's for building. It's for expanding. It's for multiplying into opportunities that outlive them. That kind of stewardship requires humility, education, and vision. It's not flashy. It's not driven by validation. It's driven by legacy. It's the mindset that asks, how do I make decisions today that position my family, my business, and my community for strength tomorrow? That kind of thinking shifts the way you spend, the way you save, the way you invest, and the way you give. Stewardship is not about restriction. It's about intentionality. It's about understanding your financial habits and rewriting them to align with your values and goals. It's about tracking your patterns, not to feel guilty, but to gain mastery. It's about eliminating waste, not out of fear, but out of respect for the opportunities your money can create. It's about using tools, mentors, and systems to elevate your decision-making. When you become a steward, you stop leaking money. You stop avoiding financial conversations. You stop outsourcing responsibility. You start building confidence, clarity, and control over your financial future. Money is not emotional. It moves according to principles. And the principle of stewardship guarantees that those who manage wisely will attract more to manage. So if you want to experience financial overflow, start by mastering financial order. Build the habits, the systems, and the mindset required to multiply what you already have. Because when you steward what's in your hands, you open the door to what's waiting in your future. When you understand that wealth is not a result of chance, but a reflection of who you've become, everything changes. The journey to becoming rich starts with becoming you, the truest, most aligned, most valuable version of yourself. It's not about chasing money. It's about elevating your mindset, mastering your identity, increasing your internal value, and developing the clarity, confidence, and stewardship to handle abundance when it arrives. Money is not just a goal. It's a mirror. It reflects your belief systems, your decisions, your habits, and your ability to manage responsibility with wisdom. So if you want to change your financial reality, don't just try to do more, focus on becoming more. Because once you become the person who creates, attracts, and sustains wealth, the money has no choice but to follow.